Imagine being born at the very doorstep of a church, as if God Himself was saying, "This one is mine." That's how the unbelievable story of Bishop Anthony Gbuji began. On October 29, 1931, his mother Agnes went to St. Charles Catholic Church in Issele-Uku for her usual religious devotion. But right there at the church door, before she could even step inside, she gave birth to a baby boy. That boy would one day grow into one of Nigeria's most remarkable bishops. And here's the wild part. Just 3 days later, that baby, Anthony Okonkwo Gbuji, was baptized. His journey of faith literally started from his first breath. Anthony was born into a home where faith wasn't just a Sunday practice. His father, Alexander, was a catechist. Prayer and service were the air they breathed. But the young Anthony's early years were not easy. By the time he started school in 1938, he was walking long dusty roads every morning, trekking almost 5 kilometers to St. Teresa's School. Think about that for a second. A small boy, no shoes, the sun beating down, yet never complaining, because in his heart he carried a sense of purpose. But God had plans to make that burden lighter. He soon went to live with a parish priest, Father Abraham Ojefua, who raised him in a deeply spiritual way. Surrounded by priests and seminarians, Anthony's imagination caught fire. He watched them pray, serve, and sacrifice, and something in his heart whispered, "This is who you were meant to be." That quiet whisper became his life's direction. After primary school, Anthony entered St. Teresa's Minor Seminary in Ibadan in 1947. For 4 years, he trained in discipline, prayer, and study. But that was only the beginning. In 1952, he moved to St. Paul's Major Seminary in Benin City to study philosophy. There, his gifts shone so brightly that his bishop decided this young man must go to Rome. So in 1955, Anthony packed his simple belongings and left Nigeria for the Eternal City. Think about the courage of that. A village boy who once trekked barefoot to school, now walking the ancient streets of Rome. And he wasn't alone. Traveling with him was another young seminarian who would later become a global Catholic giant, Francis Cardinal Arinze. In Rome, Anthony's brilliance only grew. He studied, prayed, and prepared with deep devotion. And then, on November 23, 1958, in the Sacred Chapel of Propaganda Fide, he was ordained a Catholic priest by Pietro Cardinal Arinze. It was the fulfillment of that prophecy whispered at his birth, that this child born at a church door would one day stand at the altar. But Father Gbuji wasn't finished. He stayed back to study more, earning a licentiate in theology, then a doctorate in canon law. He even picked up French in Paris and a diploma in education in London. By the time he returned to Nigeria in 1963, he was one of the most educated young priests the country had ever seen. Yet, what makes his story powerful is not the degrees or the foreign travels. It's what he chose to do with them. His first posting was to a remote area in Benin Diocese where life was rough. But instead of seeing difficulty, he saw opportunity. He organized families into small communities, trained young catechists, and built up a faith so strong that even non-Catholics were drawn to it. This would become the pattern of his life, taking what was small, what was broken, and building something beautiful out of it. Later, during the Nigerian Civil War, when danger was everywhere, Father Gbuji risked his own safety to care for refugees. Soldiers accused him of treachery, but he never abandoned his people. That same courage would define his years as bishop. In 1973, Rome appointed him the very first bishop of the new diocese of Issele-Uku. He started with almost nothing. No bishop's house, very few priests, a diocese still scarred by the war. He lived in a classroom for 8 months, while slowly, brick by brick, he began to build both the structures and the faith of the people. What began at a church door in 1931 became a life poured out for God and his people. Bishop Gbuji's story is a reminder that sometimes the place where you begin already holds the secret of where God is taking you. From the church door where he was born, to the altars of Rome, to the villages of Nigeria, his life was a journey marked by courage, education, sacrifice, and an unshakable devotion to Christ. Today, when people look back on his life, they don't just see a bishop, they see an evangelizer, a teacher, a builder, and above all, a shepherd who never stopped believing in the power of faith. So the next time you hear the phrase, born at the church door, don't just think of coincidence. Think of destiny. Think of Bishop Anthony Gbuji, the boy who entered the world at the threshold of God's house and spent the rest of his life bringing people through that same door into Christ.